So I am Michelle Baumgartner, and today I'm going to talk about how we nourish our whole self, not just with food. And this is part of a talk that I gave actually during the summertime, but I think can be really helpful right now as we are in the holiday season. So we all know that we need food to give us energy and to live. And we also know that food is such an important part of our social lives. It's often how we comfort ourselves, how we might manage our emotional states. And so we know that especially during this pandemic and during social isolation, many of us are turning towards food, even more so food and alcohol, as a way to nourish ourselves. And I know that our nutritionist, Sharon Mayer, has also talked a lot about this, of how we turn to food, especially sugar, fat, salt, carbohydrates for comfort, and during stressful times in our lives. So I know she's offered many helpful talks, and I know she's also focused on some of the emotional eating that we may find ourselves doing. So I'm going to expand a little bit more on our use of food for emotional comfort, and then I'm going to lead you into a mindfulness practice that we're going to have a chance to look at what needs nourishment and what other ways we might nourish ourselves. So we can turn towards food for emotional well-being for many states. So we can often turn towards food as an escape from an unpleasant emotion or negative mood. We may turn towards food to escape boredom, to escape challenging emotional states like fear, anxiety, sadness, irritability, anger. Also when we're stressed, when we're restless. And the interesting thing about food, of course, we turn towards food when we're feeling happy, when we're socializing. It's a centerpiece of many of our social gatherings, is what food we're eating. So that's what makes this connection to food rather complex. And, we can turn towards food to feel a sense of comfort and to feel loved, just like we turn towards it in a social situation. So one of the ways I think to work with this, to really understand what is going on for yourself, and then to be able to identify other things to do that can be nourishing, is to really slow things down. And so if we can bring some mindful awareness to our emotions, our body felt sense, we may discover that we need something else. And so the better questions we may want to ask ourselves is, what am I really hungry for? What am I needing right now? Do I have a request of myself or someone else? And we're going to have a chance in this guided practice in a minute to be able to ask ourselves those questions, and then to think about and invite in a way you might nourish yourself. And so let me just go through some other ways we might nourish ourselves before we do the guided practice. So sometimes when you think you're physically hungry, or you go towards food, you might actually be having another physical need. So you might actually need water. You might need to be more hydrated. You might need rest because you're actually tired. You might be stagnant and lethargic and you actually need movement. Or like I said, you may need emotional comfort and support. And so that could come in, do I need a friend to talk to? Do I need to journal some of my thoughts and feelings? Do I need a person or a pet to comfort me? Do I need to engage in another activity that might feel comforting in some way? So what emotional support may I need? You may be a signal, I need more social support. So again, do I need to plan a call, a virtual meeting? Do I need to talk to a neighbor? Right? Where can I find social contact? You might need some mental nourishment. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you need something to stimulate your mind. Or a creative endeavor that might be both stimulating to the mind and also as a way to express your emotions. Or sometimes people need, what we may call is like spiritual nourishment. And that might be solace in something greater than yourself. It might be being in nature. It might be listening to an inspiring talk or poetry or some kind of creative endeavor. Or for some, it may be some type of more structured or organized practice. So I think it's really important when you notice that you're reaching for food, right? As we said, we need food to sustain ourselves, but when we're reaching for food kind of habitually, again, the questions are, what am I really hungry for? What am I needing right now? Do I have a request of myself or someone else? Okay, so let's do about maybe 10 minutes here of a little guided practice where we're going to be able to help you to get in touch with a mindful awareness of any emotions, any thoughts, your body felt sense, and then we're going to be able to practice asking those questions. So what I'd like you to do is just to get as comfortable as you can wherever you're sitting. If you need to shift your posture a little bit or stretch, go ahead and do that. And then what I'd like you to do is also just feel yourself supported by the chair. Have your feet on the floor. Feel yourself supported by the floor and the ground. And then I'd like you to start with just taking 3 or 4 deeper cleansing breaths. So breathing in nice and full, feeling the chest and the belly expand, and then breathing out. Nice long exhalation. So doing that at your own pace, so that the inhalation and exhalation are at least about equal, or the exhalation being a little bit longer. And then I'm going to have you invite in a circumstance. And I'd like you to just kind of tread lightly here. Not to bring in something that's going to be the most intensely emotionally evocative, but maybe something with a little less intensity. Because there are times we all overeat. We all go towards food and for comfort, and we may not even necessarily overeat. So I'm certainly not addressing anybody that has a more serious issue with eating or eating disorder of any means. But let's just look lightly by bringing into your awareness maybe a time you chose to eat that wasn't a regular meal time or snack time. May even be sometime today you've experienced, or it may have been last evening or yesterday. Just a time maybe you reached towards food, weren't necessarily hungry, physically hungry. And as you bring up that experience, may have eaten more than you had intended, just very gently with lots of compassion, start to notice any feelings or emotions that were there prior to reaching towards the food. So again, you might ask yourself, were you bored? Were you stressed? Were you sad? Angry? Fearful? And again, we're just, see if you can, not to get into the whole story connected to the emotions, but just being able to notice and label the experience. If you have to connect to the story a little bit before that, it's okay, but then just kind of land on what was the emotion that was there when I reached for those chocolate chip cookies. And then just allow yourself to recognize and pick one of the emotions and start to notice where you feel that emotion in your body. So for example, there might be a feeling in the heart center, could be a tension, could be a feeling of collapse, could be a feeling of emptiness. For some, you might have a tension in the body, the arms, the legs. So just as best you can, just notice the feeling that maybe is arising and notice where the body felt sense of that emotion. And if you also notice if there's any particular thoughts that go with this emotion or this body felt sense, and you may just want to notice the thoughts for now, not judging them, and not following a particular story right now. But just notice. Sometimes those thoughts have a negative perception to them or may have a judgment connected to them. So just noticing. And then I'd like you to go back to the body felt sense of the emotion. And maybe go ahead, if it feels comfortable to you, is to even place a hand on wherever you may be feeling that emotion in the body. So if it feels comfortable, you could place it on your chest or your belly. Or if there's a lot of tension in the body, you may, want to even just hold or rub your arms. So just like with a tenderness, wow, when I reached towards those chocolate chip cookies, I was actually feeling really frustrated. And I'm noticing there was a tension in my arms. And then what I'd like you to do, just kind of being with yourself in that moment, to ask yourself that question. What did I need? What did I need right then? At that moment, I was reaching for those chocolate chip cookies. So notice, did I need some other physical kind of nourishment at that time? Did I need to move? Did I need to rest? Notice, did I need to express those emotions somewhere? Verbally, in writing. Did I need social contact? I was feeling lonely or bored. Did I need something else that would have been mentally stimulating or stimulated a creative outlook? So just with a very light touch, checking in. What did I need right then? And seeing if what you needed may lend itself to the second question is, did I have a request of myself? Did I need something that I could have done? Or did I have a request of somebody else? And see if you can just identify one thing, maybe one other thing that you needed in addition to those chocolate chip cookies. One other thing that might have offered you some comfort, some nourishment for whatever you were feeling, whatever your body felt sense was. And we're just going to take another minute before we end just to allow yourself just to breathe, continue to breathe in and out, and to just be with your experience. The emotion, the body felt sense. And then see yourself engaged in whatever that other activity was that also could have nurtured you. See yourself doing what else could be nurturing, or what environment would have been nurturing. So, just to summarize, you can use this practice as you work with your relationship to food, And even if you go towards the food, just being able to work with noticing, well, what else was going on? What else was I feeling at that moment? And just also being open to asking yourself, was there something else I was really hungry for? Was there something else I really needed? Do I have a request of myself or someone else? And just letting those questions come along with you, seeing if something else becomes clear at any moment. And then beginning as we continue into these darker months, as we continue to go through some holidays, to be able to notice and ask yourself those questions. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll look forward to being with you next time. Take good care. Bye-bye.